The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful sunny Wednesday in Sydney. I have heard a cold front is coming around the southeast of Australia, so some of us may be experiencing some chilly weather coming up. It's so great to have you on today's webinar. It's another one of our JobKeeper Payments webinar because we've had such interest in this topic and how it applies for members. And so whilst we've covered a lot of this content previously, Courtney has updated it for the audience, for you guys, for our members, and we'll be tweaking it, making it relevant as we get more information. And I just got distracted there because Eleanor said it's raining in Adelaide. So sorry to hear it's not as sunny as Sydney, Eleanor. You are all in listen-only mode, but you're more than welcome to ask questions. So please use the toolbox and we will address these at the end of the webinar. We'll make sure we address any questions that are more generic in nature and helpful for everybody. And if there is a really specific question and somebody needs help or further clarification, Courtney and I will get a report of every question that's been asked, and we can loop back to you directly outside this webinar. Of course, this webinar is being recorded, so it will be freely available to you on the AFTA website by 5 o'clock today. So if you need to rewatch it or want to look at any of the slides again, all that information will be on the website. Courtney Duddleston is Head of Strategy and Finance at AFTA, and she's really become our JobKeeper guru. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Courtney.
Well, thanks, Jo, and good afternoon, everyone. We're really pleased that you're able to join us today as we go through a rerun of the latest updates around JobKeeper. So for those who were not on the presentation last week, welcome. And for those who are on here again, welcome back. I do hope that the rerun today will help you understand this further and hopefully answer some of your questions that may have popped up in the last week or two. So on the agenda today, I will first provide an update on the recent announcement by the ATO on the JobKeeper employee payment date extension. We'll then go through the definition around turnover to determine an entity's eligibility for JobKeeper. I'm then going to address some of the specific questions around how JobKeeper interacts with superannuation and long service leaves. We've had lots of questions from members around these two specific topics, and we've been able to get some clarification around the interaction. So I should be able to paint a really clear picture around this. We'll then walk through the enrolment process that you need to go through as the employer. And I know that we've got a lot of sole traders on here, so I'll also go through what steps a sole trader needs to do to enrol for the scheme. Following that, I'll update you on what you need to provide your employees that are on JobKeeper. And I spoke previously about the temporary Fair Work changes. And so following that, AFTA has done up a checklist for our members that they can use should they need to enact a JobKeeper enabling direction with one of your employees. So I will go through that for you. And lastly, we should have some time at the end for some questions. So first off, a bit of background. This is now our 5th JobKeeper webinar. I am certainly living and breathing JobKeeper right now, as I'm sure many of you are, and as I'm sure most of the Australian economy is right now too. So all of our previous webinars are on our website for you to view at any time, as Jo mentioned earlier. And we've had some really great engagement from members around these. And we've tried to incorporate the questions that we've been receiving over the last few weeks into each presentation. So if you haven't had a chance to view any of these, I'd certainly suggest that you jump onto the AFTA website when you get a chance. Okay, so just recently, the ATO Commissioner announced an extension of time to enrol for the initial JobKeeper periods from 30th of April until the 30th of May. So if you enrol by the 31st of May, then you will still be able to claim for the fortnights in April and May, provided that you meet all of the eligibility requirements for each of those 2 fortnights. So this does include having paid your employees by the appropriate date for each fortnight. So for the first 2 fortnights, that being the 30th of March until the 12th of April, and then the 13th of April until the 26th of April, the ATO will accept the minimum $1,500 payment for each fortnight that has been paid by you to your employees, even if it has been paid late, but provided that it's paid by the 8th of May. If you don't pay your staff by the 8th of May, then you will not be able to claim JobKeeper for those first 2 fortnights that I mentioned just then. So it is really good news. It does provide a little extra time to ensure that staff are paid and that you can still be eligible from the very start of the scheme. So one of the most common questions that we've had is around the clarification to determine a business's eligibility. So the ATO has provided clarity around how your turnover will be defined. Turnover is calculated as it is for GST purposes and is reported on the business activity statement, or BAS. It includes all taxable supplies and all GST-free supplies. So for those members who mainly sell international travel with no GST component, then you still will be eligible based on this definition of turnover. And so that is really great news. We know in the travel industry that most have very little component that is GST payable, but I can assure you that the industry is most certainly eligible. So I've also included a slide on reporting on either a cash or accrual basis. So it's important to note that businesses may use an accruals basis of accounting to calculate both the current GST turnover and projected GST turnover. However, if your business normally prepares its activity statements on a cash basis, the ATO will allow it to calculate both the current and projected GST turnovers on that cash basis. So just note that the basis used must be the same for calculating both your current and projected GST turnover. So the ATO uses what's called the basic test to determine your eligibility for the JobKeeper payment. The basic test is satisfied where your projected GST turnover test period falls short of your current GST turnover for the relevant comparison period by the specified percentage, so that being 30%. So we'll go through now how to apply the basic test. Okay, so bear with me, we're getting a little bit technical, but I think it's really important to include this slide to give you a high level understanding of this. So step 1, you identify the turnover test period. So you choose whether you're comparing your monthly or quarterly turnover, and you can choose to compare the relevant month or quarter regardless of whether you report quarterly or monthly. Step 2, you identify the relevant comparison period. So this must be the same period in 2019 that corresponds to the turnover period. Next, you work out the relevant GST turnover. So you need to determine for the turnover test period, that being what your projected GST turnover will be. And you need to determine for the comparison period, so what your current GST turnover was back in 2019. Step 4 is you determine which shortfall percentage applies. So the shortfall percentage will need to be 30% or more, which is easily achieved for everybody on here. And lastly, you need to determine if your GST turnover has fallen by the specified shortfall percentage, which, as I mentioned, is the 30%. So if the shortfall percentage is greater than or equal to the specified percentage, then you satisfy the basic fall in turnover test. Now, as I mentioned, it's quite high level. There's some really great examples on the ATO website. So my suggestion is to work through the steps and apply your business circumstances to the examples if you can, and it really just helps put this all into context better for you. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, part of the process will be estimating your projected GST turnover. So to do this, you'll need to identify the sales that you made or were likely to make during the turnover test period. so that being until September when JobKeeper ceases. Relevant considerations include the period during which the business is not expected to trade because it's been closed due to COVID-19, or its ability to trade has been restricted. Recent patterns in trading that are expected to continue, and revised business plans. So I want to take a moment and go through superannuation around JobKeeper. This is probably one of the more common questions that we've been getting from members, and so hopefully this can help break it down for you. So how does it work? Remember, the JobKeeper payment is paid monthly to you, the business, from the ATO in arrears, and it's a taxable amount to your employee. There is no superannuation component on the JobKeeper portion of the payment. So there's 3 scenarios here that I've included. Number 1, your employee is not working while on JobKeeper. So in this particular scenario, most likely you've stood down your employee. In this instance, no superannuation guarantee is payable on the fortnightly JobKeeper payment. Number 2, your employee is currently working and they earn under the JobKeeper amount of $1,500 per fortnight. So, for example, they earn $900 per fortnight. You are required to pay superannuation on the earnings of that employee, so on the $900. You are not required to pay superannuation on the top-up payment, that being the additional $600 per fortnight that they will receive. And thirdly, your employee is currently working and they earn over the JobKeeper amount of $1,500 per fortnight. So, for example, they earn $2,000 per fortnight. You're required to pay superannuation on the earnings of that employee, so that being their wage of $2,000 per fortnight. So a number of members have also reached out to us inquiring around how JobKeeper interacts with long service leave. And we've finally been able to get some clarification on this, and so I'll just run through this now. It's important though to remember that long service leave is not addressed in the Fair Work Act temporary changes, as long service leave is governed on a state-by-state basis in separate state legislation. JobKeeper won't change the operation of the state long service leave legislation. So I've addressed here the 2 key areas around long service leave and its interaction with JobKeeper. So first off, can an employer direct an employee on JobKeeper to take their long service leave? And is that employee able to refuse such a request? Okay, so if a state's long service leave legislation allows an employee to be directed to take their long service leave by their employer, then an employer can still do so, even where an employee is on JobKeeper, rather. So for example, in New South Wales, an employer can direct an employee to take long service leave with 1 month's notice, or under temporary COVID-19 changes with less than 1 month's notice, where agreed by the employee. I know that in Victoria, the employer must give 12 weeks written notice, though the employee can dispute the taking of the leave. So my suggestion here is to find out what requirements are applicable to your business state. Now, you as the employer will, however, need to make sure that when the JobKeeper employee is on long service leave, that they're paid what they would normally be paid for long service leave, and that the amount must be at least $1,500 per fortnight. So for example, if the employee's hours or days have been reduced as a result of COVID-19 under the JobKeeper Fair Work temporary changes, this would not impact the employee's entitlement and amount for long service leave. Their long service leave will still be paid as if their hours or their days had not been reduced. And secondly, does the employee need to retain a minimum balance of paid long service leave? So that is similar to that of annual leave, which we know is a minimum of 2 weeks paid leave. Well, at this stage, our understanding is no. We're unaware of any minimum balance requirements under any state long service leave legislation. So as I mentioned earlier, my suggestion would be to find out what requirements around long service leave are applicable to your state, and then to apply these if this is something that you and your employee can work together on. So enrolment for JobKeeper is now open, and if you wish to make a claim in respect for the first 2 payment fortnights, then you must register and have made payments to eligible employees originally by the end of April, which is tomorrow, but now has been extended to the end of May. The first 2 JobKeeper payment fortnights run from the 30th of March until the 26th of April. So I will go through all of this in more detail shortly. This is just a high-level step-by-step guide for you. So first off, you'll need to log into the ATO business portal and authenticate with your mygov ID. From there, you fill in the JobKeeper enrolment form. And again, I'll show you a little bit later what this looks like. Step 2, you're required to check and identify your eligible employees through your payroll or via the ATO business portal. And again, we'll run through later on what this means if you use single touch payroll and if you do not currently use single touch payroll. Next, you need to notify your eligible employees that you intend to participate in the scheme and ask them if they agree to be nominated and receive the JobKeeper payment from you. Step 4, if they agree, then both you and your eligible employees need to complete the JobKeeper employee nomination notice. And again, I'll run through this in depth later on in the presentation. And lastly, you're required to keep a record of the JobKeeper employee nomination notice. And each month, you must also reconfirm your report eligible employees through the business portal. Okay, so this refers back to step 1 in the previous slide around the enrolment for JobKeeper. So I've taken some screen grabs from when I enrolled AFTA for JobKeeper earlier last week. And bear with me, I know someone here have probably already completed this process, which is great. However, we've had a few calls and queries. So we'll again run through this for those who might yet to complete this. So step 1 is you need to log into the business portal using your mygov ID. This can be done by either yourself if you've got access, or your accountant or your BAS agent will also be able to do this for you. You then need to select Manage Employees to the left of the screen. From there, you click the link for the JobKeeper payment and you opt to enrol into the scheme. And then following that, it's just a matter of filling in the JobKeeper enrolment form and providing your eligibility information, such as declaring that your turnover will fall by 30% or more, your expected number of eligible employees, your contact details, and your bank account details where you would like the payment to be made. And remember that it's the entity that is receiving the JobKeeper payment, and that's whether it's a company, a partnership, or a trust. So the entity is the one receiving the payment for employees and for the eligible business participant. The exception, of course, is for a sole trader who is both the entity and the eligible business participant, and so they would receive the JobKeeper payment themselves. So if you're intending to enrol in the scheme as an eligible business participant, so for example, as a partner in a partnership, a beneficiary of a trust, or a shareholder or director in a company, perhaps, then you need to ensure that you opt in for this. And then it's just a matter of confirming that as the business participant, you meet the eligibility criteria that is stated here. And then you submit and you're issued with a receipt number to keep on file. So I know that there's many on here today that are business owners that are actively engaged in their business, and they may not necessarily be on the books as such as an employee. So as we mentioned earlier, businesses in the form of a company, trust, or a partnership can qualify for JobKeeper payments where a business owner, so that being a shareholder, an adult beneficiary, or partner, is actively engaged in the business, or a director is actively engaged in the business. This is limited to one entitlement for each entity, even if there are multiple business owners or participants. So below I've set out the critical requirements for this. So in the case of a company director, if company directors receive director's fees, then an eligible business can nominate one director in a director capacity to receive the payment, along with any eligible employees. A director that receives the payment cannot also receive it as an employee. However, if you've got, say, two directors and both are also employees of the business, then one can be nominated in a director capacity and the other in an employee capacity. In a partnership, only one person can be nominated as the partner or the entrepreneur to receive the JobKeeper allowance, along with any eligible employees, but noting that a partner cannot be an employee. So because of this ruling, the other partner might be entitled to some other form of income support from Services Australia. So for example, the job seeker allowance. A beneficiary who receives the payment cannot also receive the payment as an employee either. Trusts can receive the employee payments for any eligible employees. Where a beneficiary of a trust only receives distributions, so rather than being paid salary and wages for work done, then only one individual adult beneficiary can be nominated to receive the JobKeeper payment. And so that is not a corporate beneficiary. And lastly, if you're a paid shareholder, then an eligible business that pays shareholders that provide labour in the form of dividends can nominate only one shareholder to receive the JobKeeper payment. And the shareholder who receives the payment cannot also receive it as an employee. So part of the process of receiving JobKeeper is identifying and maintaining your eligible employees. So you or your accountant can identify each employee that you will claim the JobKeeper payment for and maintain their details each month. So there's two scenarios with this, and it really depends on whether you use single touch payroll or whether you do not. So if you use single touch payroll or STP, and you have STP enabled payroll software, so for example, Xero, although there are many others out there, you can identify your employees directly into your STP enabled payroll software if it has been updated with the JobKeeper functionality. So I'll just talk from experience. Here at AFTA, we use Xero. Last week, when I went into the payroll section, Xero had implemented a dedicated COVID-19 payroll support page. From there, I was able to nominate all of the eligible employees to receive JobKeeper. So if you do happen to use Xero and you're not quite sure where this is, I'm happy to have a conversation with you offline and help you navigate this. But I think it's really just a matter of getting into the payroll section of your STP software and you should be able to find the necessary information and links from there. Alternatively, I'd suggest speaking directly with your payroll software provider to find out about the process. Many on here will probably also use an external payroll provider, such as ADP or the like. So speak to them and they should be able to direct you on how to do this. And then the second scenario is if you do not currently use single touch payroll. So in this instance, you can identify your employees in the business portal by manually entering your eligible employees' details. So more of a manual process, but it certainly doesn't mean that you miss out altogether. And for this, if you get stuck, then my suggestion would be to speak directly with your accountant, who should have access to do this on your behalf. Okay, so I know we've got a lot of sole traders on here today. So I'm going to provide an overview of what you can expect and how you can complete the enrolment online yourself in just a few minutes, really. So to do this, similar to before, you start by logging into your mygov account and navigating to the ATO business portal. You should then see a banner similar to the one on our screens now. You click on the link to view the JobKeeper application process. Once you've done that, you then arrive at a page similar to what's shown now in the screenshot. You would then click to enrol for JobKeeper. So when completing the enrolment form, you'll need to provide basic information about your business along with specific details regarding JobKeeper criteria. So for a sole trader without employees, you would answer 0 to the question about employees. You'll then need to indicate that you're enrolling as a sole trader and that you are the eligible business participant. Once you've done that, you need to confirm your eligibility. You insert your preferred bank details for payment and contact information, and then submit the application. And at this stage, that's all you need to do. From Monday, you then should be able to complete the business monthly declaration. And then, so every month, you'll need to reconfirm yourself as a sole trader through the ATO portal on mygov or in the business portal. And you'll need to provide information as to your current and projected GST turnover. And it's worth noting, this isn't a retest of your eligibility, but rather an indication of how your business is progressing under the JobKeeper payment scheme. So as part of the enrolment process, both you and your employee need to complete the JobKeeper employee nomination form. So this form notifies your eligible employees that you intend to participate in the scheme, and it asks them if they agree to be nominated and receive payments from you as part of the scheme. So once you've identified your eligible employees, you need to provide them with this form and have them return it to you by the end of the month. The form does not then need to go to the ATO, but you will need to keep a record to document that your employee has agreed that you claim the payment for them. And you'd generally be required to keep this on file for 5 years in the case that the ATO decided to come and do an audit. Now, it is important to note, though, that you should not use this JobKeeper employee nomination notice if you're intending to claim JobKeeper payments for an eligible business participant. So, for example, a partner in a partnership, a beneficiary of a trust, or a shareholder or director of a company. A different nomination process is required. So for those who are yet to provide the nomination form to their employees, and I would suggest doing that ASAP, there's a quick screen grab here of what the form looks like. It's pretty straightforward. You as the employee need to add in your entity name and ABN, and then the eligible employee completes the form with their personal information. They agree to be nominated for the JobKeeper payment, and then they sign a declaration. And as I mentioned earlier, this form, it only needs to be filed and not sent to the ATO. And we have included a link to, which was on the previous slide, to where the form is located on the ATO website. Okay, so we're coming towards the end, and I know that today, in particular, there has been a lot of information to digest, and some of it has been quite technical. My suggestion would be to seek advice from your accountant if you need help about this. If you feel like it's becoming too complicated, your accountant is able to enrol, identify, and declare for JobKeeper on your behalf. So make sure that you reach out to them if you do get stuck, because they can help you. I've also included the number for the dedicated JobKeeper info line with the ATO. If you've got a technical issue, or if you've got a question about enrolment through the portal, then sometimes it's just quicker to call someone rather than go back and forth on email or trying to use that little chat box thing. So their number here is listed for you. In one of our previous webinars that we did, I also spoke in depth on the various temporary changes that were made to the Fair Work Act for employers and employees who have access to the JobKeeper payment. And I also ran through the JobKeeper enabling directions, which are around changing current employment arrangements, so such as reduced hours or days, undertaking alternative duties, or working at an alternative location. AFTA has now produced a checklist for our members. So if you're thinking about utilising the Fair Work Act changes through issuing of a JobKeeper enabling direction, then this checklist could be really helpful for you. So for example, if you need to request an employee who is on JobKeeper to reduce their hours, this checklist is a useful guide for you to ensure that you follow the correct process. So we'll make sure that we include this checklist when we distribute an email to members with the webinar recording later today. Okay, well, Joe, I might hand control back to you now and see if we've got any questions that we can run through. Joe, I think you're on mute.
Yes. I was having mouse issues trying to unmute myself. Okay, guys. Well, thank you again for joining us. We've got a few questions here, not too many today, so we'll should be able to have a look through all of these. Courtney, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I've had a few comments that, according to a payroll newsletter, it was stating that an employer can't select individual eligible employees. It's a one in all in concept. This was raised by Mark, and I did have that question on another webinar, so I'm not sure if you're aware of that or the nuances.
Yeah, I have seen that. Look, the government has made it clear it's really not it's not about picking and choosing, I suppose. At the end of the day, though, it's your business, and you need to make the right decision for your business, and that means putting staff on JobKeeper with the intention that once JobKeeper ends, that you will still be able to retain them as an employee. That's the ultimate goal of JobKeeper, really, is to keep the employee and the employee connected during this period, but also once the pandemic is over and it's business as usual again.
Now, Courtney, Linda said, love your work, guys. So thanks, Linda, but does have a question. She said, how does a sole trader who is not registered for GST prove their eligibility in terms of a fall in turnover?
I might have to come back with that question with an answer. Take that one offline if that's okay. I know that they're still eligible. You do not have to be registered for GST. In terms of the nuances around declaring your drop in turnover, I don't know at this stage. It's because we haven't had to do it yet. We don't have to do it until next week. So I don't exactly know what the process is around that. But I believe from Monday, it's when you start to make your monthly turnover declarations with the ATO. So I should be able to find out a little bit more once we start to do it at AFTA as well, and what the process is, particularly if you're not actually registered for GST. So I might look back on that question if that's okay.
Perfect, Linda. We'll come back to you because, of course, I guess how each business demonstrates their fall in turnover will be different for every business. Okay, question from Leanne, who's a sole trader, and just wishes to clarify that if she puts on the form from April, puts in the form in April and not in March, does that mean she won't get paid until the end of June?
The JobKeeper payment is paid monthly in arrears, okay? So the April payments are expected in the first week of May. So if sorry, can you just repeat the question again, Joe? Are you saying that would she not want to opt into the scheme from March, I would expect?
Yeah, actually, probably a good question back is why would you not opt in now and why would you wait? Because I think she's saying they've extended the time that you can apply for JobKeeper. So if it's extended and you wait later, does that mean you miss out on the first round of payments?
You wouldn't miss out, but it would be paid at a later date.
Great. And Francis, I just note that you're also interested in us looping back to you. So
is this around the not registered for GST?
Yeah, not registered for GST. Making note of that. Perfect.
Yeah.
So bear with me, guys. I'm just reading a couple other questions. Oh, Susie, I've just read your comment, so we will also loop back to you around the GST, acknowledging that question.
I think it's important to note that the process isn't open yet in actually determining your decline in turnover on the business portal. So it'll probably have to be at some stage next week because they haven't actually opened up that yet. So again, which is why I just can't answer that question at this stage. Okay. Apologies.
So, and because Naomi just notes here that she's completed step 1, but then there's nothing to do for her as a sole trader until the 4th of May.
That's right.
So yes, correct, Naomi. Nothing for you to do for a bit. Franca, I also acknowledge that you'd like to be looped back around GST, so no problem. Okay, I've got a question here. Michelle, I'm just trying to digest your question. You might just want to reword that for me so that I can understand what you're asking. Okay. So Karen just has a question around the process, Courtney. She has a company and is the only person in the business, so she takes owner's drawings. So she wouldn't put down that she hasn't any employees in the process. But if she does, I think she's ticked. Yeah, I think she's ticked that she herself is put 1 in employee. So therefore the ATO may think that she has got 2 people in the.
Okay, so yeah, in that so my suggestion there would probably be call the ATO and find out what's actually happened. So if you're not actually, sounds like she's not actually an employee. She's taking drawings, so she would be the business participant. So in that instance, it should be putting 0 as number of employees and going through the business participant process instead.
Okay, great. Karen, I hope that answers your question. We had someone on a webinar the other day that had a similar problem and they just had to call the ATO and just explain that they misinterpreted it and that it was just them as the sole trader, and the ATO fixed it up from their end, so there's no problems.
Yeah, so I might actually just go back to that number, if that's okay. Let me, my slide's not working, Joe, sorry. There's the info line there. You can't, once you've enrolled and you've submitted your application, you can't go in and edit it. So you'll have to call the ATO directly if there's any changes that you want to be made. So we've got their number there for you.
Yeah, great. We'll leave that up on the screen while we have a look at some other questions. I'm just acknowledging a couple of people here who have the same GST question. So a question from Michelle. Let's see if we can assist here. After the COVID-19 and you've applied and got JobKeeper, but then after 6 months when the JobKeeper ends, at that point, if they can't continue to pay staff, can they let staff go, or will the government audit them that they've only kept them for that long? I think
Oh, no.
I'm interpreting that question correctly.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I mean, once JobKeeper ends, and the thing is that the JobKeeper is it's planned to cease in September, and so once that happens, then you'll have to make a decision that's right for your business, and and if it's not viable to keep staff, then you'll have to make a decision accordingly. Obviously, the plan with JobKeeper is not to have them on JobKeeper and then let everybody go. But we don't know where we'll be in 6 months' time. We don't know when the whole pandemic will end. We don't know what will happen with the economy once JobKeeper ends. So you'll have to make a decision accordingly that's right for your business.
Yeah, thanks, Courtney. Okay, bear with me. We've got a few more questions popping in. Okay, a question from Stuart. If he has nominated April as the first month that he will experience a decline in turnover, will he still be eligible to receive JobKeeper payments for the first 2 fortnights of March?
No, he should have opted in from March in that instance.
Okay, but I suspect, Stuart, that you probably, being in our industry, could probably demonstrate a decline from March. So maybe talk to your accountant about that.
Yeah, I would certainly be opting in from March, and the ATO has specifically stated that they'll have the discretion if your business has not quite experienced a 30% downturn in a particular month, but they're expected to in the coming months. So if, for example, March, you're only showing, a 26% or whatever it is, the ATO's got the discretion to still be able to opt you in from that period.
Perfect. Thanks, Courtney. This is our last question. Okay, it's quite specific here, so see how we go. And it's Kathy's question. Let me just read it to digest it. Okay, Kathy, I've just digested your question, and I think let's take that offline. Courtney will loop back to you on that because it's so specific to your circumstance. I think it'd be more beneficial if we talk to you directly rather than bring that in an open forum. Well, Kathy's question was the last one. Looks like we've addressed everybody else that had a question, or we will loop back to you where we've said we will. Any other questions before we end the webinar today? Last chance.
That means we've answered everything. That is fantastic.
It's good. I feel, Courtney, the more we talk about it, the more we're getting being able to provide clarity around this. So I know it is quite a detailed topic, and the challenge comes in where everybody has such different operating structures, and be them sole traders or business owners with staff or directors. So we recognise everybody has different structures, and we're trying to do our best to support everybody. So thank you very much for joining us.
Sorry, I was just going to mention, if you do happen to have a question between now and when the payments do start flowing, send it through to afta@afta.com.au. They're all getting flicked to me if they're about JobKeeper, so I'm happy to take that offline. I'll loop back with you and we'll try and answer any queries that you've got.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. If you're interested in a really interesting webinar, join us for tomorrow for cancellation and refunds. So more on that coming from Naomi.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Bye-bye now.